everyone, Emily here from Emily Reads. This is take number 6 of my February 2022 reading wrap up. We'll see if I can make it through this video without messing up. So, in February, I read 4 books. One of them was 3.5 stars, 2 were 4 stars, and 1 was 4.5 stars. And I felt a little bad about only reading 4 stars, and I realized I'm comparing myself to other booktubers, and when you compare yourself to other people, you compare and despair. So if you're sitting here watching this video going, wow, you read 4 books, I only read 1. Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible reader. No, you're not. You read a book. That is okay. If you're sitting here watching this and going, man, I only read half a book, I'm a terrible reader. No, you're not. You are reading. However much you read, that is awesome because you are reading. You might have different life circumstances than other people do. For me this month, I had 5 IEP meetings, which involves a lot of work. I had my formal observation, which if you're a teacher, you know how much work you have to put in for that. I had parent-teacher conferences. I had progress reports were due. So there was just a lot going on, and mid-month hit and I would just come home from work utterly exhausted. I couldn't even read some days. I think there were like 4 days where I just couldn't even read. And there were some days where I read like 10 pages because it was just a tough month. And that is okay. I read 4 books and I'm going to take it. So the first book I read was Jim Butcher. His book, called Stormfront, which is the first book in the Dresden Files. And I used this for the Flourish and Blots challenge. I used it for Defense Against the Dark Arts because it has dark magic. And I also used it for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge. It is set in a sister city, so it's set in Chicago. And it's a sister city to Warsaw, I believe. I enjoyed it. I did a full review spoiler-free video, so I'm not going to go into a whole ton of details. I would link that spoiler-free video down below if I knew how to do that, but I don't. So if someone knows how to do that, let me know in the comments down below how to link videos. That would be awesome. The next book I read is Well Met by Jen DeLuca, and you'll notice that this title says Well Matched. You are correct. I read Well Met on my Kindle. And Well Met is the story, this is the 3rd book in the trilogy. Well Met, the book that I read, is the 1st book. And it is about Emily, who has moved to a small town in Maryland to help her sister and her niece. Her sister and her niece were involved in a car accident. Her sister took a pretty good beating from that and is very injured, is not able to get around by herself. Her niece, I believe her name is Kate, if I remember correctly, would like to be part of the town's Renaissance fair that they put on every summer. But in order to do that, because she's only 14, an adult needs to volunteer with her to provide supervision. So Emily's kind of roped into volunteering for this Renaissance fair. And there she meets Mitch and Simon. And Mitch, who you see actually pictured on this book, he's known for wearing a kilt. He's kind of the town stud. And of course Emily's attracted to Mitch. But there's also Simon, who he has been involved in putting this Renaissance fair on every year since it's been open. And he has some very close personal ties to keeping the Renaissance fair going. It was a very cute book. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I loved reading about the Renaissance fair aspects. I've always wanted to go to a Renaissance fair, and I've yet to go to one. So this summer, I think I need to change that and go. As you can see, I have the 3rd book. I checked it out in my library. This is Well Matched, featuring April and Mitch. And then I also am currently reading Well Played, which is the 2nd book in the trilogy. The next book I read is Children of Dune by Frank Herbert. And I use this for the Flourish and Blots challenge. Um, the category I used was ancient runes, and Parseltongue, it has a fictional language. I enjoyed Children of Dune. I had a hard time with the last 200 pages because I kind of had hit the wall at work and I had stopped reading it for a while and then I had picked it back up and it was hard for me to get back into. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars um, because I really enjoyed it at the beginning. It kind of fell apart for me towards the end, but it wasn't the book's fault. It was what was going on in my life and the fact that I was stressed and overwhelmed. My brain was not in the right headspace. And so that's what made reading it challenging. But in this book, we follow. So I need to back up. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because I didn't feel like it was fair to punish the book for the fact that my brain was just not working properly in reading it. Frank Herbert is a very intelligent writer, and you really need to take the time and pay attention to those details because there are events that are happening in this book that have started and been set in motion from the first book. So this follows Paul and his family, the House Atreides, as they are on the planet Arrakis. And Arrakis is known for it being sandy and dry, and there's a reason why it's sandy and dry. And we know that there are worms, and somehow they are responsible for somehow the worms are linked to production of spice and the dryness of the planet. It's really hard to give a review of this book without revealing too much and being very spoilery. So I enjoyed it. I do have plans to keep reading the original first 6. I don't plan on reading like the other books that Brian Herbert, his son, wrote. I heard those aren't that great. But I thought it was a good book. And then the last book I read, sorry, my iPad is on a swivel chair. That's why it moved there for a minute. The last book I read is First Test by Tamora Pierce. This is a middle grade novel. I gave it 4.5 stars, and to be fair, I gave it 4.5 stars because I love Tamora Pierce. I read this years ago when it first came out. When was this published? That is now a good question. 1999. So I read this when this first came out. It's a middle grade novel. And this is about Caladry of Midlian. And she is now the first girl who will openly train as a knight. So Tamora Pierce has 2 other quartets that appeared before this quartet. You have the Song of the Lioness, which features Alana, who goes off to train as a knight, and she disguises herself as a boy in order to do so, because girls are not allowed to train as a knight. And then there's the Wild Magic series, which features characters from the first quartet, but is about Dane, who has wild magic and learns how to use that. This now is after this quartet of books that starts with First Test, follows those 2 quartets. And so this is about Caladry of Midlian, and she's the first girl who is able to openly train as a knight in Tortall. However, the knight in charge of training knights and the pages and the squires, Lord Wilden, he's not really open to girls training as knights. So he says, okay, I know I have to train her, but I will do so only on a probationary period. So she's allowed to train here for a year, and if I don't think she can cut it, she needs to leave after the year. So while Caladry thinks that this is very unfair, she agrees to the terms, and so she goes and she trains. So this just follows her adventures as a young page. Again, I really enjoyed it. partly because I just love Tamora Pierce. It's a good homey read for me. It was a nice uh, change of pace after I had just read Children of Dune. And I used this for the Flourish and Blots challenge. I used this for arithmetic, and the category I used was magical numbers. It relates to a magical number. First, relates to the number 1. And apparently the number 1 is a magical number. So that is all I read this month. Again, it felt like not a whole lot, but whatever you can read, that is awesome. Just keep reading. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. Bye.